We look at entrepreneurship, even though MSME ministry defined micro, small, medium enterprises, the micro is a completely different context. Actually, 93% of what we have is not really in the formal sector, which will qualify as either as own account enterprises where people, which is actually closer to less of an enterprise. And I think sometimes we as Indians confuse our entrepreneurial journey by saying every Indian is an entrepreneur. Actually, most Indians don't want to be entrepreneur. They want to be in a job because there is a reason to be in a job. Most Indians and most people in this world actually want to be in a job because they need predictability. And I think we confuse it because we do not have the ability to provide that kind of opportunity. People are forced into entrepreneurship, and the own account enterprise that constitute 93% of all the enterprises that we have are those people who basically use their and their family's time to survive every day, have high unpredictability, and deal with the worst possible financing and other mechanisms. Then you are talking about small enterprises, which consist of largely first generation entrepreneurs. Some of them have been probably second or third generation. And these small guys are the ones who are very, very productive, along with the micro guys who are actually going beyond a subsistence enterprise. That means they're employing between 2 to 20 people in their roles. And these are the ones who are creating productive employment in the country. The challenge remains, how do you finance these micro enterprises? A lot of people have tried to build financing mechanism and burned their fingers very badly around it. The default range can range pretty high, and one single serious default in the macroeconomy can increase your defaults and can wipe out very strong companies as well. Uh, in terms of policy interventions, which what I have noticed from the government is the use of fear and threat, which I think has unfortunately become part of the governing in this country. And I think the Prime Minister has been talking about less government, more governance, probably is the right approach to go. In trying to solve a problem which is unrelated to business, there is a problem that they're trying to solve, you are trying to make business impossible. And these are the things that actually create challenges. Coming back to the opportunities that emerge, there is a significant amount of policy arbitrage happens when a policy is brought in, whether it is in form of subsidy or in terms of creating an arbitrage that would allow somebody who knows the policy better to create businesses which have a sunrise and a sunset time depending on how the policy goes. And there are lots of that happening. For example, skill development is a great phrase that we have been using. There is a significant amount of enterprises that are emerging across the length and breadth of this country who are essentially unsustainable enterprises, completely surviving on the policy arbitrage created by the government, who is paying out for them. Now, I have looked at around 60 enterprises in skill development space. None of them will survive the day the government removes the payout for the skilling part. Are these enterprises really valuable? Will they actually create value? More so if we do not know where the skilled entrepreneur will finally go. And that's one of the reasons why the skilling activity that I'm seeing right now in the country, driven completely by policy arbitrage, is going to create a lot of skilled people who do not know what they're going to do. This gap of policy is where the challenge lies. So what can government do? Well, government can probably play a role of the facilitator. I think the challenge that we have been faced in this country is the ecosystem that surrounds us is very weak. We want, and I think the government in its wisdom wants to do right things, like it wants to set up a 10,000 crore venture capital fund. Great, but who's going to run that fund? Does a government officer or a banker is the right person to run a 10,000 crore venture capital fund? Amazingly not. Unfortunately, because venture capital is about taking risk. Now, how many people in the government have actually quit their jobs, started businesses, and failed? Probably none. So would they be the right people to do this? The answer is no. Second, if you set up a 10,000 crore venture capital fund, is it a fund of fund? Is it a regional fund? How will it operate? What are the mechanisms and routes under which it will operate? The only thing we know is it is going to operate under the SEBI guidelines. But SEBI guidelines actually are about venture capital funds. And even today, I have been running a venture capital fund for 14 years. I'm still struggling to understand what is the taxation policy when I have to repatriate capital back to my investors. 14 years of hard work, still not sure whether I'm actually on the right side of the law or the wrong side of the law. And you won't believe it, we are actually being asked to pay taxes before we have returned principal to our investor. So every time I exit, because they believe that you have a trust, the trust is actually a collection of, so they are actually trying to tax you on an individual exit basis. And there is absolutely no clarity. We have everybody from PwC to KPMG trying to resolve it. We still have no answers. Nobody knows it. So these are the challenges. I hope at some point of time government understands that while there is a lot of entrepreneurial energy we are actually spending 80% of our entrepreneurial energy fighting the issues that can actually be removed by just one stroke of the pen. So the fight that we are carrying is probably not as worthwhile as it could be. And can this country be changed significantly by people like us who are trying to be entrepreneurial in our ways, both while financing as well as investing? Yes, the answer is yes. But maybe we will need government as a partner rather than a threat and a fear. So I'll stop at that. Thank you.